inshallah. All right, Bismillah. So, assalamu alaikum, everyone. So nice to meet everyone and do introductions. So we're here today to do a quick info session and orientation on the high school pilot program. As you guys all know, we have already announced and launched and began admissions for the Muraqaba school, which is a K through 5 school starting in August. Inshallah, we already have, mashallah, over 50 enrolled students and admissions still ongoing. But what we also have been kind of planning behind the scenes, which we haven't really publicly advertised because we want to do a small, tight-knit pilot group for high school girls. And Wadud will get into why we're starting this and why starting it with girls in just a minute, inshallah. So Wadud, I'll pass it over to you.
Sure, alhamdulillah. So, bismillah, so we always have envisioned, Leah and I both were high school dual credit and high school leadership development program advisors in the past in our other roles. When I was a student back in the days, I'm talking almost 30 years ago, in the 90s, when Frisco wasn't Frisco, I used to come and work at this Frisco Collin College. So as a student, I also worked as an advisor. So I used to help students with their credits and enrollment and advising and all of that. So later on, when Leah and I actually were at IQA, which is Richardson School, and we started the dual credit program there. We also created a leadership development program for high schoolers there. So all these years of kind of doing different programs, we felt that our own girls were at good treat. I took them with me when I was a principal, and then we started a HIPS program there, and alhamdulillah, they just they completed their memorization, and they're there for 3 years. So they're moving into 9th grade. So as they're moving into 9th grade, we just felt like, we had this vision of a program that will not just teach them academics, but will also teach them all the different life skills and all the different things that a high school, students should know these days. And especially, we're big on mental health, and we wanted them to learn about mental health life skills, emotional life skills. We wanted them to learn about how to apply different things. Leah she launched a startup when she was in business school. Leah recently coming back from a senior director position in corporate, AT&T and other companies in marketing and operations. So she understands the business world well. Before that, she was a certified teacher, taught in the classroom. And I had my own consultancy. So we realized, with our startup work, our nonprofit work, we thought that we've learned so much in our journey, starting different programs, projects. It's so important for our girls to learn from a very early age how to do something, how to solve a problem, and how to solve it in a way that can serve people. And so we thought that it would be a really good skill for them to develop. Assalamualaikum. Come on. Have a seat. Are they both your daughters here, or?
Yeah, but that's like
I don't mind sitting on this side because the
yeah,
view is
sure.
right there. Yeah. Are they coming in?
yeah. I just told them.
Oh, okay.
Let me.
Yeah. Bring. So it's so important for our girls to learn, not just like, okay, they're still kind of doing their math and they're still doing their, figuring out what they're going to do in life. They're so confused in high school, which is normal. But at the same time, if we give them some exposure to different things, maybe they'll develop a focus. And maybe they'll be a little bit more kind of like they know how to apply the knowledge they've learned through an application. So we wanted to create a program that teaches all of these skills together in one program. And also in a way that we felt is going to give them the academics. Of course, parents are not going to come to a school without academics. But in addition to academics, it will give them the entrepreneurship skills, the mental health skills, the Quran, because they're HIB, so we definitely want to make sure they continue to do their reviews. They're strong in the Quran. We also want to introduce Quranic Arabic. I personally went through various Quranic Arabic programs, including the Qalam program. So, Sheikh Abdul Nasir and I were good friends. So we've chatted about how to have a teacher here in terms of a Quranic Arabic program for the girls. So potentially they could skip year 1 of Qalam and go directly into year 2 if they want to do a seminary year. Of course, not every girl has to do that. A lot of our girls that are Quran centered, they might say, Qalam is here. Why not take a gap year and go for a year, right? And Qalam has not been easy to even get into these days because there are hundreds of applications. Now it's gotten way more selective. It's also expensive in the sense that it's $10,000 a year, and unless you're doing all 5 years. So we were thinking that if we could give the Arabic foundation to the kiddos while they're in high school, and then they can skip year 1, go directly into year 2. Potentially also with dual credit, I'll explain that 2 days a week they'll go to community college. For their high school credits will be through the college classes. So by the time they finish high school, they will also be done with 1 to 2 years of college, depending on how many classes they want to take. They have some, some leeway there. And then 3 days a week, they'll be here on campus and they will do Quranic, Arabic, and Quran and other like sports. There's a badminton center 4 minutes from here. We also thought about like doing some type of sunnah sports like archery or, horseback riding and things like that. And then the entrepreneurial nonprofit launch and things like that. So that's the overall program. Even the other 2 days they go to college, we do want them to come here. And we want, so Leia's going to be advising this small group of girls on like their, of course, parents will have some role to play, but she will also guide them in terms of the classes and, going through the college life and all that. So we're not just throwing them into a college environment without that support and supervision, right? So that's the overall understanding and aspiration, intention of the program. With that, we'll go.
Yeah, so Wadud gave kind of a really nice nutshell, right? Overview. And I know it's a lot of information, so we're gonna kind of take you guys step by step through all of it. And don't worry about having to remember everything, because especially those who have never been through this dual credit or college process or high school process in the US, it's just understanding the system. And it's a lot of different terminology and lingo. You'll eventually get used to it as you're a high school parent. So just, bear with us. We'll share the information with you, inshallah, later as well. But just wanted to make sure you have all the details. So don't get overwhelmed if it's information overload. So that was the
And then
agenda.
girls also, like, we actually wanted the girls to be here. So the girls that are here, it's excellent that you're here. The girls that are not here, I think it'll be good for them to kind of look at the recording. For girls, it's always good to see us in person, to see us in person and to be able to ask questions. So
Yeah.
those of you that are here, you too, feel free to raise hands, ask questions, tell us that, hey, I'm confused. What does this mean or that mean? Feel free to ask questions, okay?
Yeah, and don't feel shy. So we already, and like we said, we want to create a small, tight-knit program. We're really not looking for more than like 5 to 7 girls to be able to have like a good, friend circle, same values, working towards the same goals together. We already have 3 confirmed girls already for the program. 2 obviously are our own daughters because we have twin daughters, mashallah. And another girl also whose younger siblings are going to the Muraqaba school, and she's also confirmed and going through this process as well. So we have 3 confirmed girls already. Okay, so yeah, you have a
Sorry,
question? Yeah.
So Ashlina is already doing the dual credit, like I was telling you.
Yes, that's great. So she already has a leg up that she's completed the call-in process, mashallah. So we'll get to that in just a minute. But I remember you talked about that, alhamdulillah. So, and again, this is like a casual setting. So if you guys have questions as I'm going through, feel free to ask. If it's something we can answer right away, we will. Or if it's something that I'm getting to later in the deck, I'll let you know, inshallah. So like Wadud mentioned, we'll start with the 5 pillars of the program, right? He mentioned, all the different things that we want to be able to do with the kiddos in terms of academics, servant leadership, fitness and health, right? Emotional wellness and spiritual excellence. Do you want to touch on each pillar just a little bit, Wadud, in terms of what we're doing before I move into dual credit?
Idea under academic excellence, we talked about dual credit.
Mm-hmm.
Servant leadership, we talked about how to learn about entrepreneurship and service projects, talked about prophetic health, badminton, archery, the horseback riding, or other sunnah sports. Emotional wellness, we actually want to teach them mental health first aid. We want to teach them emotional resilience, mindfulness, emotional intelligence certifications. So as leaders, we see that more and more that those skill sets that can really give them resilience in the workplace. And those are more important because people are, giving a lot of the technical things to AI and other things. So it's so important for them. And also we see a lot of kids that are very brilliant, but mentally, emotionally, they're not able to cope in the real world. So it's so important to give them those skill sets. And spiritual excellence is what we talked about in terms of Quran, Quranic Arabic, Sirah, Tafsir, and other things that we will be teaching, inshallah.
Inshallah. And just in terms of the spiritual aspect, we already, mashallah, confirmed Mufti Sajid's wife, Sister Naveen, Osada Naveen. She's already, she's an alima, if you already know her. If you don't, mashallah, her son will be attending the Muraqaba school. So she has agreed to teach our high school girls the Sira aspect. And we're working with her to figure out what that schedule looks like in terms of, do we do it in blocks in different years, where 1 year they're doing Sira, 1 year they're doing fiqh. So we're working with her to figure that out, inshallah. Okay. And then the Quran and Arabic piece, we're also working through this month of July, talking to our current teachers. We have two excellent teachers, mashallah, who we hired for the actual school. And we're just trying to see if the schedule allows us to be able to utilize those same teachers to teach a period of Quran and Arabic when the girls are here, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, not during their college classes. And if the schedule doesn't permit, then obviously we can still talk like he's talking to Sheikh Nasser and other colleagues to see who they recommend to come and teach that Arabic and Quran portion, inshallah. Okay, so these parts are just a little bit more for, people who want to read through the PDF later, but we kind of scanned over this already. So I'm going to go into the other sections after the 5 pillars, which are things to know. How do I kind of
Yeah, just
move
click
the bar?
on that bar and then move it to the left. Click on the black area, the black area.
Oh, sorry, Teams.
Yeah, just click there, right there, yeah.
Okay, there we go. Hopefully you guys can see it better. So it's a lot of words, but bear with me, inshallah. We'll just go through it. These are just some important points I wanted everyone to understand before we get into some of the nitty-gritty about the dual credit. So obviously, as he mentioned, all the different pillars, you can understand that students who are part of this program have to be very self-motivated. They have to learn how to be responsible and take ownership of their own learning, right? Only those types of students, I think, would thrive in this type of program, because when you're doing call-in college, you're responsible for your own college class. You're responsible for your GPA, your transcript, and this is now your college transcript, right? And so we have to have students who are studious, who enjoy the process, but who also know how to take their learning and run with it, inshallah. The other things that I want to make sure everyone understands is that because we wanted to have some flexibility in terms of what classes students are allowed to take, we are categorized as a homeschool pilot, okay? And that's just a categorization. This means that the kids are not attending any public or private school. Students have to pass the TSI exam, which is part of the call-in process, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. She's probably already done with that, so that's a good thing. But TSI is the biggest hurdle, let's call it, in the call-in college application process, okay? Parents, again, I'm here as your like a guidance counselor. So this is what I did when I was at IQA. I basically worked with all the families and the students to guide them through the whole high school process. But at the end of the day, once, I obviously, just like the other parent that's enrolled, I've been sitting with them one-on-one meetings, making sure their application is correct, making sure, I'm kind of holding their hand through the process if they have questions. But parents have to still be responsible for the registration process and the payment process when it comes to call-in college, inshallah. But we give you guidance on how to do it. In county, I did double check with them, and you are right. Alhamdulillah, they confirmed. So if you live in Collin County, then approximately $200 is the cost for one college course per semester. That means it's $67 per credit. In college, one class is about 3 credits. Sciences, because they have a lab, they can be up to 4 credits. Okay. The one thing that is going to be a little bit of a mindset shift for everyone is the graduation timeline for this program is fluid. And you'll see that when I put the timeline up on the screen. So right now, everyone is, maybe if you've been homeschooled, it's easier for you to capture the fluid aspect of it. But those who have been to more traditional schooling where you're used to going grade by grade, it's not like that for this program because it's very much based off of the student's pace and the load of classes that they can take. And we don't like to put undue pressure on the kids. So if they feel that, okay, they transition and ease into it and they can take a full load after a couple semesters, then that's fine. That's great. That means you'll just move on faster, right? But if you feel like, no, I'm okay just taking 2, 3 classes and that's it, that's okay too. If that's what you need to be successful and have a balance in life, then your timeline will just be a little longer. And it's okay. There's no rush because you guys are already doing this at an early age.
Designate you as 9th grader, 10th grader,
Yes.
11th grader. It's just
On
that
your
you-
transcript.
on your transcript, but
Yeah.
it's just that by 11th grade, if you finish all your high school credits because you've taken all the classes through Collin, you'll be able to graduate early. And so for 4-year, you might be able to graduate in 3 years.
Yeah.
But again, there's no pressure.
And you'll see that on the timeline slide in just a few minutes, okay? Texas graduation requires 26 credits. They have various high school graduation programs, let's call it, but pretty much all the Islamic schools and other public schools, we go for the distinguished program. Distinguished means that you're going to graduate with 26 high school credits, inshallah. Associate degree means finishing 2 years of college, which is about 60 college credits. Sometimes parents get a little confused. They're like, oh, does my child have to do associate, or what about bachelor's? So basically, associate is the first 2 years of bachelor's, if that makes sense. Okay. So mashallah, our Muslim community is so educated. Everyone always goes for bachelor's, master's, and beyond, right? So it's not like you're just stopping at associate, but for the purposes of dual credit, associate means the first 2 years of college. Okay. And then a lot of people ask, what happens after this? You know, after I'm done with high school, after I'm done with my first 2 years of college, then what? So then you can transfer to a 4-year university. The most common transfer university here is UT Dallas. Most kids end up going to UT Dallas. That's why I use them as a sample. So for UTD, currently, if you have at least a minimum 3.0 GPA when you graduate from high school and call in college, and you have between 42 to 89 college credits, which you would if you do associate, you'll have 60, then you get automatic transfer admission to UTD. You don't have to take SAT or ACT. They give you automatic admission, and you're also automatically eligible for transfer scholarships if you are within that minimum requirement. Okay. All right. So with that, I am going to move on. Any questions so far? Make sense?
Yeah, it does. I
Yes.
just wanted to clarify with the fluid graduation timeline.
Mm-hmm.
It could also be, so like I had told you, my daughter is trying to go for a double associate
Mm-hmm.
with the core done. When I spoke to her, I told her if it takes an extra year, you'll just be in 11th grade twice. So we'll just keep her there longer. That would still work, right?
Yeah, I think once we sit down and have a more one-on-one
Yeah.
meeting and look at her transcript,
We'll do
we'll
an
yeah.
individualized plan for every student anyways.
Yeah, so like the plans I'm about to show are just samples. Every kid's is gonna be different because every kid comes, like the other child who's with us, she went to school in Alabama and then Frisco, and now she's coming here. So her transcript is a little bit different. Our kids' transcripts are different. So I sit one-on-one with everyone to make sure we understand exactly how many credits the kid has and what their plan should look like, inshallah. So let's keep
Those that
going.
are starting off first time, I think they're will still be able to probably take some or many of the classes together, but some of the classes they could take on their own basis.
Okay, trying to see
You're having
where
trouble
to,
with yours.
yeah, so let's just show everyone, this is a sample for a 9th grader. Do we have anyone going into 9th grade who's here?
I think
Okay,
the first column is important though, Les, so yeah.
yeah,
She's just on an accelerated path, so
So she said she'd be nice.
yeah, yeah.
okay, so let's talk about this 9th grade plan just for a second. And don't worry about memorizing the numbers, like I said, okay? So basically the pink is high school and the purple is college. Okay, so the pink kind of shows the first column is how many high school credits are required for Texas graduation. Like I said, remember it's 26. So you see you need like 4 Englishes, 4 maths, 4 science, 4 social studies, a fine art, a health, a PE, 2 world languages, and about 6 elective classes, 5.5.
And these
Okay.
are 4 means like usually you have 1 English grade, 9, 10,
Yeah.
11, and 12.
So it's important to remember when you talk high school credits, you're
They're
talking
different.
about 1 class. When you're talking college credits, it means 3 credits per class.
It's different.
Okay, so 1 college class is worth about 3 credits. Except for science, usually it's 4 because there's a lab component. Okay, so for a 9th grader, because they would just be starting high school, obviously they don't have any credits earned yet. That's why these columns are blank. Okay, the only reason I put 1 for math is that oftentimes 8th graders already have algebra 1. So algebra 1 counts as 1 math credit. Okay, so that means you have 25 credits remaining to graduate from high school. So how does that equate to college, right? So if you see the first column in the purple, these are the number of college classes you'll have to take to cover also your high school credit, okay? So basically it's going to be the same because you're starting from scratch, right? Now, what does that equate to in terms of college credits? Remember? So if it's 3 credits, so if you're taking 4 Englishes in Colin, that's going to be times 3. That's why you have 12 credits that you've earned. Okay. So you can see how that math works across all of the rows. The reason for PE and world language I put 0 is because regardless of whether you're bringing credits or not, you already get Arabic as for world language credit and you get our fitness as PE credit. So you don't have to take those at Colin. Okay. Also, Colin for dual credit, they don't allow dual credit students to take PE classes. It's probably because of the age difference. They probably don't want like 14-year-olds playing with like 18 and 20-year-olds. So PE is a class that you're actually not allowed to take any of the sports at Colin as a dual credit. Okay. But it's okay. That makes sense because we're already offering fitness here. So for a 9th grader, if they were to take this program with us from the start of high school, then you can see that by the time they actually finish their college credits, they're at 73, which is, remember, associate is 60. So technically, you're actually finishing about 2.5 years of college when you finish high school, inshallah. Okay?
Well, it can vary because when you transfer it to UTD, depending on, or UNT,
Mhm.
whichever program you transfer to, they may not take all 73s.
Yeah.
So they might say, okay, yeah, out of this 73, we only will take like this, we can take 50 or 60 depending on the alignment. So there is a little bit of, difference based on which program you go into. But majority of your classes are going to be accepted.
Yeah, it depends on the major. Obviously, if you're taking anything major related, you definitely have to check with the university you're going to apply to see if they accept. However, I did check UTD's website with like the core classes of Colin. Almost all these core classes are accepted by UT Dallas, which should also be the case for like UNT SMU. I didn't personally go check those universities, but like your core classes, like your English 1301 or your college algebra, these are all
There might be
accepted.
some changes, but I remember like 30 years ago when we used to transfer students to SMU from Collin College,
Mhm.
there used to be at least like 42 credits that were like core classes that
Mhm.
fitted like
That were
fit
fine.
every university.
Mhm.
But then beyond that was like, give or take depending on the program.
Sure. So hopefully this makes sense. I'm gonna move on then. So this is for a 10th grader. Is there any, and she's a 10th grader, right? And I don't know if this specifically applies to her because she's already taken some calling classes, but we can sit and talk about that one-on-one. So I won't go into this again in too much detail, but you kind of get the drift of
Hold
how
up for a second. Let me see if I can do it on a second screen. So you
Um,
have this on top.
it's on Zoom right now. Should I turn off the recording?
Yeah, just for a second.
Okay. Okay. Um, click that bottom.
Mini me.
No,
Oh.
oh, no, that's
Sorry.
not us. The bottom one.
Hold on. I gotta stop this. Exit meeting. Oh, yeah.
Okay, here we go. Bismillah. So I think everyone gets the drift kind of in terms of what we're doing here with the charts. And this is just a sample for an 11th grader. So obviously they will come in with more credits and they'll have less classes they need to take for a high school requirement. Okay. I'm going to move on to this timeline. Okay. This is basically sample timeline where students and parents both want to know that, okay, the credits is all great, but what does it really look like in terms of what do I have to take in the summer and the fall and the spring and what happens every year? Okay. And again, this is just a suggested timeline based off of not being too aggressive, but not being too slow. It's kind of like a medium pace for the students. Okay. Normally, what we've seen in Islamic schools is that most students can handle this type of pace. Once in a while, you'll have either a student who's very accelerated or someone who needs to slow down and they just need to have a better balance. Okay. But generally speaking, this year, 2025, 2026, the summer is basically going to be used to study for TSI and make sure we pass that exam so that we can take classes from the fall. All right. In the fall, homeschool advisors, even at Collin College, recommend that if this is your first time at Collin, do not take more than 1 or 2 classes. They want you to transition, understand the college environment, be comfortable so that you can excel as you move forward. So that's why our recommendation is to start with like a basic English 1301. And then a math. The reason I put math in there is that it's not a requirement. If let's say the TSI, you only pass reading and writing, but not math yet. You can take it in sections. So you can still like study for math and pass that later and take math another semester if you want. The reason I'm putting it though is because um, what I've seen is that kids, it's like a progression. If you skip a semester, you forget that content, right? So once the kids are kind of in a flow and they're studying for TSI, I find it better that they go ahead and continue that flow with English and math because they're building on it, right? You need to know that information to be able to succeed in the later class, right? Like English 1302 or, after college algebra, if you want to take trigonometry or calculus. That's why I try to keep them in the same progression. All right, so that's basically what it looks like in terms of fall. Then spring, we would add another class to slowly increase the load, maybe take a science like a biology or a chemistry. And then in the summer, I only put 1 class, but obviously if a family or kid feels like, I'm kind of bored or I'm not traveling, I'm not working, if I want to take 2 classes, one in June, one in July, you can do that too.
Or if they don't want to take any classes, that's fine.
That's fine too. If you're like, oh, I'm going to Pakistan, I'm going to India, I don't want to take any classes. I have a wedding happening this summer. That happens too. Okay. And then in fall, my recommendation was to continue with 3 classes where you take another science, your health and elective. And then in spring, you increase that load to 4. 4 is considered a full load. Okay. If there's an 11th grader, which one of the students is, then by the time they finish next academic year, by spring 2027, they will have finished their high school requirements. So they'll get their graduation diploma from Muraqaba school. Okay? For high school. But those who are coming in for 11th would continue another year if they want to with us to keep going with their Quran and Arabic and to finish their second year of college. Okay. Those of you who are 9th and 10th, you would just keep going, same type of format, but just different classes. This is where the fluidity comes in, where because all of the girls are starting at the same time right now, technically fall 2025, the 9th and 10th graders would be done with their high school graduation requirements at the same time. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And the 9th, 10th, 11th graders will be done with the associate degree if they follow this timeline also at the same time. So technically, you can be done with graduation with both high school and your first 2 years of college in a 3-year timeline. Okay. Now, I kept that other column because there's no rush. The girls are already young. They're already doing this accelerated program. If they feel they need more time, it's perfectly fine. But if you feel like, okay, I need to take a breather. I'm just going to take 2 classes this semester, then it's fine. Take the other 2 classes the following semester and then graduate a semester later. Okay. The only disclaimer I put here at the bottom is that 9th graders will have to use some of their Collin College electives to take some math and science courses that will also cover their high school requirements because they haven't done any of that yet. But the Quran and Islamic studies will count as high school elective credit. Okay, so what does that mean? That means those who are coming in as 10th or 11th graders, because they already have some high school credits, the electives that Collin College requires, they can use it to actually do some electives, like try a marketing class or try a computer science class, a coding class, a culinary arts class. But some of the 9th graders, if they want to do that, they can. It would just be something additional they pay for because some of these electives have to be used for high school credit, like math and a science and other things.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it's so inexpensive on college classes.
Yeah.
And also the other thing is that the girls, like we are trying to, for parents that have been here for K-8, they've already paid a hefty amount of tuition. Hopefully, inshallah, the voucher program will become easier, right, in a year or two. But they've paid a hefty amount of tuition to come to our school. So We want to make it easier, right? The tuition is half starting in high school, but you also don't have to pay tuition for 4 years. Instead of 4, you can do 3 years and you're done, so it makes it a little bit easier for parents. And also, at the same time, you don't also not come to a Islamic environment, because finding solid Quran, Arabic, Islamic studies, Sirah, and all these other life skills training that we're giving girls, finding it all by yourself as a parent is difficult. But if we can bring it all together in one place, it's easier. So this time is also important to not take it too easy, just like, okay, yeah, they have the foundation, they can just go to any program. I think this is also a very important formative years of the girls that should be properly invested as well.
So because you touched on tuition, I went ahead and just kind of jumped to the tuition slide for a moment. But did you want to talk about this and just kind of go over what you were mentioning?
Yeah, so annual tuition is half of our current tuition, which is at $10,000. And half of the tuition of the elementary students, one-time tech fee of $600. Basically, we'll be showing the girls, we're installing, a softer security program so we can monitor and make sure that the kids, when they're at school, they only have access to things that they should have access to. Of course, they have to check in, and they're probably like this. They're going to check in their phones when they come here. But otherwise, in terms of laptops, we will be issuing them, laptops so that it's all controlled. They have access to the right things, and they don't have access to things that we don't want them to have access to. And then on top of that, they have the tuition of the Collin College, right? So Collin College, what's the cost yearly, Le?
So the payment comparison, this is just for everyone's knowledge for like, future planning and current planning. So you understand what's the savings, right? So the first column is if you decide not to do this program and you do just UTD after high school, like a 4-year university, then right now UT Dallas costs about $8,000 per semester for a full load of classes. That means in 4 years to get your bachelor's degree, you're spending $64,000 for a child. This is without scholarships, financial aid. If you do this program where you do dual credit for 2 years at Collin, and then you transfer to, let's say, UTD for your final 2 years of bachelor's, then Collin County in-county is going to cost you about $1,000 per semester. This includes summer, right? So if you're taking like 10 classes total, right? And in 4 years, that means you would have spent $4,000 at Collin, 32,000 at UTD for the last 2 years, for a total of 36,000. So per child, you would have saved $30,000 in your bachelor's degree.
We're hoping that if you really stand out, 4.0 GPAs don't stand out anymore, right?
Everybody has 4.0.
And if you go to school with like a lot of Indians or Desi, you're in trouble with everybody with 5.0 GPAs. So it's very important that our girls do something that really show that they're able to add value to the community. And I think that's where this nonprofit launch and some type of real world experience of the kids matter. And we thought that even during the week, once a week, we want to give the girls exposure to like internship, to go be a TA in the classroom, or with the entrepreneurship program, go out and visit places and understand the needs of the communities and try to develop something to solve that problem, right? So these two things, internship and entrepreneurship together, will make them stand out, and not just for the college application, but I think as a Muslim also, they're someone they're ready to serve, as a Muslim ethos. That's, I think, what we want to develop, inshallah.
Inshallah. So I'm just going to go back to the slide for a second. What does the weekly rhythm look like? And again, this is flexible based off of which 2 days we find good classes for the kids, right? So the aim is to try to find the same class for the girls to be in together so they have like a support system, right? So let's say Tuesdays and Thursdays, they're at the Collin College doing their dual credit courses. Then Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they would be here at the Muraqaba school doing that rotating schedule of Quran, Arabic, the Islamic studies, fitness. We want to include some study hall time so they can also work on their college homework during school hours. And then have a year-round schedule of like the life skills training, the workshops, the different guest speakers we might bring in for the girls, inshallah. Also like the community service projects that he was mentioning, right? Let's see. Last slide before we go into Q&A, the Collin College checklist. So we really want to, this is basically the call to action, how we want to build and nurture our girls into strong female leaders for the community, for the ummah, right? And Sister Saima, you're already done with this checklist, which is a great leg up, mashallah. But for everyone else, the reason I'm sharing this now is because it takes at least a month to go through this process and for the kids to really study for TSI and hopefully pass it, right? There, at least the good option is with TSI that you can retake it as many times as you need. There's no fixed dates. It's not like SAT where they only offer the test 4 times a year and that's it. You can go anytime at the testing center and you can retake the test and you can retake sections. So I'll give you an example. Our own girls, they're going into 9th grade, right? So obviously it took some studying because they haven't been exposed to all of the different college level math yet. The first time, mashallah, they took it a few weeks ago, they passed the English reading. They were 1 point away from the writing and 5 points away from math. So tomorrow, inshallah, they're retaking math and writing. Inshallah, make dua that they pass. And it's okay if they still don't. That means that they still have time to retake it in sections, maybe meet with the tutor, and then try to pass it in sections, inshallah. And like I said, the good thing about it is that if they pass the reading and essay, you can still take the English classes. And then they can work on math if they need more time, and then do that in the next semester if needed. Okay?
English and sciences and histories and everything else will open up with the.
With the English and writing, inshallah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And also, to tell the girls that, they're almost bypassing like some of the 9th and 10th grade math. And like everybody worries when they put their kids to a HIPS program, for example, like, okay, they're not getting as much exposure in English and math, so they're missing out. I felt like whatever they missed, they caught up really fast with this TSI prep because this is almost preparing them high school math to get into college level math, right? And for them, if they see like, oh yeah, I did pass it in 1 go or 2 go, that's fine because you're almost bypassing a couple of years of work in a few months. So take it easy on you, no worries.
Yeah. So like you can see here, there's 7 steps to the Collin College process. First is to apply through applytexas.org. There's no essay required, no fee required. Usually takes a couple days and then they email you that you've been admitted and they give you what is called a CWID, which is your Collin College ID number for the student. You need that ID number to do everything else at campus. After that, you set up one login, which is the Collin College's kind of portal. That web portal is what they use for everything, for loading your documents, registrations, etc. And then we talked about TSI passing 3 sections. And then there are just some other requirements like a quick 30-minute training video. You have to have meningitis vaccine within the last 5 years. Parents have to sign a dual credit permission form that they give permission for the child to take these classes. And final is register and pay. For this fall, Collin College classes start August 25th. Our first day of school is August 13th. But colleges usually start a little later and end a little earlier, which is nice. So literally you can register for classes up until the day before classes start, inshallah. And like I said, you need at least a month to go through this process. So if anyone, after today's session, if you feel like, yes, this is something that I want to do, that we want to go through this, then dua, make istikhara, talk to each other as a family, but then literally by next week, you should get started on TSI studying so that you can have
We'll
enough
send you
time.
what you have to order and all the other online resources, inshallah.
Yeah. So that's basically it. This is a QR code also to apply to our pilot program. If any of you are already current parents, you don't have to go through the form again, but you can email me transcripts and then, I'll go from there, inshallah. So I'll pause.
Recording.
I'll pause the recording. I know that was a lot of information at once.